Welcome to a very snowy installation video. Today I have a $250 eBay exhaust to go on the E36. Now I chose this exhaust because I was looking for something that wasn't that loud, wasn't that expensive, and I couldn't find many reviews about the typical eBay exhaust, this one, that you can find from like 100 different sellers on eBay. Now obviously since eBay is a marketplace, I don't know if you can find this exact one, but from what I can tell, a bunch of different sellers sell the exact same exhaust. Generally it's somewhere from like $200 to $400 on eBay. Now, while this is a budget exhaust, this should be lighter than the stock exhaust, a tiny bit louder, a deeper tone, and it's about half as expensive as the next cheapest catback exhaust, which is about $500 from UUC. I was considering that one. It's a UUC one with those DTM tips, but according to the internet, it's pretty loud, and I want something a little more subtle. This is more of like a OEM plus sort of build, hopefully, so I don't want something super loud annoying the neighbors. Also, I thought it was a great opportunity to review an exhaust that I could only find a couple videos about and hopefully get some sound clips so it could maybe inform your purchasing decision if you've been considering this exhaust. Okay, so from an unboxing perspective, you know, it could have been packed better, but I'm not too worried. I think when you buy super budget car parts like this, it just makes sense that the packaging's not going to be the best. I'm not expecting it to be that good. Also, this thing is about to go on the bottom of my car, so it's going to get dinged up anyway. I'm not really worried if there are a couple dents here and there. So everything looks pretty good. I don't know why they included that styrofoam. It feels like maybe it didn't do a whole lot, but the exhaust sure looks shiny. It appears to have come in 3 parts, so you have the muffler itself, and then the 2 mid pipes here. Comes with hose clamps, which is great. Those, I believe, are going to be used to attach these to this. It also comes with the flanges pre-installed, which in some other videos that I saw, it didn't come with those, and you had to reuse the stock one, so I'm glad to see that that's there. First impression from picking it up is that it is not super light, but definitely lighter than the stock exhaust. And once we get that stock exhaust off of the car down there, I'll weigh both of them so we can see if there's any weight savings, because that's part of the idea of getting this exhaust. It's just a little bit of weight savings towards the back of the car. Alright, so this is everything that came in the box. You have your 2 mid pipes. Both of them come with flanges. They actually came with these little rubber bands to hold them in place, but those do not go on your exhaust. They would melt. That would be a terrible idea. Like I mentioned, it comes with the hose clamps. These seem to be pretty heavy duty. You can see they're actually constructed with a nut and bolt, which is a heck of a lot better than the worm screw type of hose clamps. Here is the muffler itself. As expected, there's some dings and some scratches here and there. Again, doesn't really matter to me because this is going to be on the bottom of the car. No one's going to see it, and it's going to get dinged up anyway, so whatever. I saw this in some other reviews, and I'll echo it here. The welds around the actual exhaust tips look better than the welds that will be hidden. So I guess if they're going to cheap out on some welds, I'd rather it be the hidden ones. That doesn't bother me at all. This little tab for the exhaust hanger came bubble wrapped, which is great. I love that. And again, as expected, the welds here are not great. They're not pretty, but they look perfectly functional. They look perfectly sealed all the way around. Now, if we flip this over, we can get a better look at some of the details back here. You have this support bracket welded on, cool. The most kind of, I don't know if it's annoying or just weird part about this exhaust to me is that in the exhaust tips, they have these baffles that make the tips look a lot smaller than they actually are. I've seen lots of people just cut these off because, you know, I don't think they look particularly good. However, if you cut the whole thing off, you lose the rolled lip. And for kind of an OEM plus style build, I want that rolled tip. I just want something a little nicer looking. So I'm gonna leave these for now. Maybe someday we can cut them out, see if it changes the sound of the exhaust. But we'll cross that bridge another day. Okay, now that all of that is unboxed, I want to do a baseline OEM exhaust note check. Okay, so for reference, this is a 1998 328i. No engine modifications, no cold air intake, no nothing. So it's going to be a pretty normal sounding E36, I guess. It does have the Golf Tee mod, which means that the active exhaust, the little flap that opens and closes in the back, I teed that off so it stays open permanently. So this is just going to be ever so slightly louder than a stock E36 exhaust, but only by a teeny bit. And chances are, if you have a 328, you probably have done the same thing to your car, especially if you're looking at catback exhausts. Okay, sorry that wasn't much of an exhaust test. The car is super cold, so I don't want to rev it right now. Also, we're in a quiet neighborhood, so I'd rather not piss off the neighbors. But hopefully that's enough to hear kind of at idle how it sounds, how loud it is. I'm hoping with this new exhaust just to get a little more growl and a tiny bit more volume, but I don't want a lot. I want something pretty subtle. Also, I would test drive it and get outdoor driving shots, but it is super snowy right now. And here in Seattle, we are not used to snow. So knowing me, I would probably crash the car. You'll just have to trust me, I guess, that even at full throttle, the exhaust is quiet, doesn't sound good, and is also super rusty. It looks really ugly. First order of business, we are gonna get at those bolts right there. And in an attempt to make my life a little bit easier, I'm gonna be using Croil, spraying that on the bolts. I'm just kind of assuming they're seized based on how they look and the fact that they are on the bottom of the car. Okay, now that the Croil has set in on all 4 bolts, I'm going to try my best to crack these loose. Wish me luck. In case you're wondering, it is a 12 on the nut side and a 13 on the bolt side. Okay, all of the nuts and bolts are loose. I'm not gonna take them all the way off yet because I don't want the whole system to fall down. I'm gonna go back to the back of the car now and drop the existing muffler from the hangers. Okay, to drop the rear muffler here, we're gonna need 2 different wrenches. You'll need a 14mm with a pretty sizable extension on it. I just cobbled together some extenders here. And then we need a 13mm. You can do this with a deep socket if you want. It's just a bolt right here. This extendo just makes it easier. I'm also gonna pull around the jack. I wanna support the muffler in the back because the second I take off the bolts, that whole thing is going to want to come crashing down and torque those bolts underneath and possibly transfer all that up the exhaust. I don't want to mess with that. I just don't want a big heavy thing falling down, so I'm going to use the jack. All right, now that we're under here, you can see the 2 14mm there and there that are gonna require that really long extension. And then over on the outside, you can see that 13mm right there. Also, while I'm under here, I'm gonna detach this vacuum line that runs to the exhaust valve. That actually runs into the trunk right under here. So if the exhaust comes down while that's still plugged in, it's gonna rip it. I already have this actually teed off in the trunk. So all I have to do is remove it here, kind of tuck it away somewhere, and I'll call it good. Okay, once that one's loose enough, all you gotta do is kind of push it off to the left. You don't actually need to take the whole thing off. It's off! Okay, it's been a couple hours. I took a break, ate some cereal, I did some of the mundane stuff, and now I think we're ready to put the new system on. All right, so I kind of put it all together here. These joints are just slip fit, and there's actually a lot of room they can slide in and out, and I assume that's for adjustability. That'll be great. The last thing I need to do to prepare is to bring this bracket over to the new one, and it'll bolt right to this hole right here. I did weigh both of these systems. The stock one is just under 45 pounds, and the eBay one is just under 26 pounds. So even with this super cheapo exhaust, you're saving a ton of weight towards the rear end of the car. I don't know if you'll be able to notice the difference performance-wise, but weight is the enemy of all the things we like in cars: speed, braking, handling, whatever. So any amount of weight that I can save with this system is great. Okay, finally done. Every single nut and bolt is tight. I am having some kind of minor fitment issues back here, which is to be expected. It's a really cheap exhaust. Both the tips are pushed over to the right too far, so they're actually colliding with the rear trim piece. I'm exaggerating, but you can hear it bonking around when I was working on the exhaust. So I gotta fix that before we do a test drive. But other than that, I think we're good to go. I think I'm gonna wait till tomorrow morning to do the test drive, So I'll see you then. Okay, so I just watched back those clips. Those are like reasonably realistic as to what the car sounds like when it's driving by. Chances are, if you are considering this exhaust, you're going to be driving your car in a spirited fashion, and so you'd like to hear what it sounds like with more throttle. So I'm driving to a park right now. I'm going to warm up the car, give you my initial thoughts, and then we'll end this video with the full sound test. That way you can make a really educated decision on whether or not this is the right exhaust for you. Okay, first things first, inside the car, there is absolutely no drone. That's probably my favorite part of this exhaust. Typically, you have to spend a lot more money to get an exhaust that doesn't drone. I think in this case, it's more of a product of it being a relatively quiet exhaust, and so it's not like there's a lot of excess volume to drone when you're on the freeway or under load. But nevertheless, it's a really nice feature to have, especially at this price point. When you get on the throttle, however, there is definitely more volume in the cabin, like in a good way. I would say overall, inside and out, this exhaust is about 20-ish% louder than a stock exhaust. Now, for some of you, that's going to be a deal breaker. If you want a really loud exhaust, this is not it. I will say, though, that this is just enough volume for this to feel faster. Obviously, the car probably isn't actually faster, it just definitely feels that way. So it definitely adds to the driving experience, despite it being not as loud as some other options. In terms of sound from outside the car, to me this kind of sounds like halfway between a stock exhaust and what I think of as an aftermarket exhaust sounding like. There's none of that rasp that sometimes you hear with cheaper exhausts. This is definitely more smooth, more subtle, but still much louder from the outside. And it certainly sounds, in my opinion, a lot better. Okay, I am almost to my destination. Time for the official sound test. Okay, I hope that was a helpful test. My closing thoughts are, is this exhaust worth it? For me, yes. I was looking for something subtle, something that would save weight, look a little bit better, and wouldn't break the bank, but would still improve the driving experience. I can say 100% I like the driving experience more, there's more volume, there's more drama, but it's not insane, it's not super loud. Now, would it be worth it for you? It depends. For about the same price, you can get blast pipes online that just delete the whole muffler. That's gonna be loud. So if that's what you're into, go with that option. This exhaust to me feels like the perfect balance for a daily driver, but I understand that everyone has slightly different tolerances for loud exhausts, so pick the one that makes the most sense for you. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful in your buying decision-making process, or if you're not considering this exhaust, at the very least, I hope it was entertaining. Alright, that's it for today's video. If you liked the video, make sure to like the video. If you really like the video, make sure to subscribe. I make a new video every week. Thank you so much for spending your time watching this video, and I will see you next time. Peace!